Hello, I'm Tim Harris. This is Julie Harris, and this is Real Estate Coaching Radio.
That's right. So make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any future episodes. Thanks again for popping by. Hit that like button, and don't forget to leave your comments and questions so we can get right back with you.
We will. Thank you for continuing to make our podcast, Real Estate Coaching Radio, the #1 listened to podcast for real estate professionals in at least the United States. And let us know what you think about this video. Leave your comments below. Thank you.
We are back, and today we're going to be talking about, what are we talking about, Julie? 5 ways to get 5 deals from 5 people you know in the next 5 weeks.
Or less.
5 weeks or less. I think I changed the title for the, but same idea.
Same idea.
Yeah. Well, before we get to the first point, because this is obviously great content for everyone who wants to, actually sell real estate.
Indeed.
Julie and I are preparing a podcast that's going to be coming out tomorrow that's all about the commission sharing lawsuits. And the commission sharing lawsuits are things that are that lawsuit and the resolution of it is going to have a seismic effect on the real estate industry. There's no nice way of saying it. What Julie and I have been talking about on this podcast for over a decade, and really what we've been talking about overall for last 20 years, is that we anticipated the automatic entitlement of a buyer agent commission to become something that would be negotiated as the industry evolved. I'm frankly surprised it didn't happen a lot earlier.
Me too.
I mean, when you and I were selling real estate in the late 90s and we had a team of buyer agents that were working for us, we had prepared a buyer agent presentation for them to use, which the output or the goal of the buyer agent presentation was obviously they'd sign the the state required agency form, but also then they would assign an exclusive buyer agency form and then do a net sheet on the rest of it. So in other words, when Julie and I had a real estate team forever ago, the agents that worked for us were being trained to present to that prospective buyer just at the same level, requiring the same level of skill and professionalism as if you were going on a listing appointment, assuming you have any skill and professionalism when going on listing appointments,
That's right. Which, by the way, all of our premier coaching clients and our elite coaching clients and our coaches are all trained to do the same and have been from the get-go.
Right. So Julie has been preparing the notes for tomorrow's show, and Julie, you and I were talking prior to today's show. I had to, have you stop so you could talk a little bit.
Big news.
Well, it is. So what you're studying this and you're writing out your bullets and whatnot. So what do you anticipate based on your research will change?
Good question. I think first, grain of salt, nobody panic. It's going to take a little bit of time to work through this and see what the actual result will settle into, because it could be one of several options, okay? Number one, we could decide as an industry that we want things to stay relatively status quo and just have more transparency. All of the argument against this happening, right up to founders and brokers and everyone it's been negotiable the whole time, okay? But it hasn't, the lawsuit has to do with transparency, and do sellers and buyers actually know that at the level that they will now?
Okay. More specifically, the lawsuit has to do with the fact that the plaintiffs were able to convince a jury that the industry wasn't telling the sellers that the buyer's agent commission was negotiable and was essentially more or less mandating. This was, what they're
colored it as a conspiracy.
Well, exactly. And then all these agents all these brokerages got together and decided to, make it so that the buyer's agents or that the listing agent always had to pay the buyer agent commission, and it was always going to be whatever the percent was. Any of you who have been in the real estate business, especially on the listing side of things for any amount of time, that isn't necessarily how things work. But in this particular class action or this particular suit, the plaintiff's attorneys were able to convince the jury that is what had actually transpired. There's going to be more litigation that's also going to happen over the next, I think, 6 months or less, which, might indeed be even more nails in the coffin of the traditional entitlement of a buyer's agent's commission, So where does that lead, Julie? So number one is the industry, to your point, will more or less operate the same way, but it'll just be more disclosures when you're listing the house, explaining to the seller,
because we have decades of tradition of doing this.
Explaining to the seller that the buyer's agent commission is up to you, whatever you want to set it, and explaining to the seller the advantages of it being this or that or the other things of that nature.
Yes, that could be. Okay, so option one is it stays fairly close to how we've been operating, just with more transparency. Option two would be a kind of different type of presentation, which of course we're going to do in coaching, where you have 2 things to check perhaps on a listing agreement. One is how much you, the seller, are going to agree to pay the listing agent. And the other is an option to pay between 0 and whatever % to the buyer side and you decide based on your conversation with the seller. Now, that brings us to a listing agent and a seller having to understand the benefit to buyer's agents, such as we want to appeal to as many buyer's agents as possible so we can have as many showings as possible so that we can potentially have competing bids. And the amount, this is where the presentation would potentially go, the amount that you're going to make because we have created that kind of activity, the more showings you have, the more offers you'll get, the higher the price will potentially go, far exceeds not paying a buyer agent. That is kind of the direction where that could go. Okay?
There'll have to be some more analytical data that's, validates that hypothesis.
With some examples and things like that.
And by the way, Julie is just summarizing what she's been reading. We're not offering our own opinions on this. We're working on that for tomorrow's show.
And I think it's still too soon to tell exactly what direction it's going to be. There's a bit of a collective unconscious out there amongst agents and brokers and even loan officers about how this all should go. So then the third option potentially would be everything on the buyer side becomes negotiable, and you're going to have to provide overwhelming value if you are a buyer's agent. And you're going to operate not knowing exactly how much you're potentially going to make. It could be anywhere from zero to something.
But specifically, for example, when you take a listing as a listing agent, you do write on the listing contract with a commission the seller is going to pay you for doing the job of selling their home. Mm-hmm. The same type of thing in the third option that we're working on could very well be that the buyer's agents now are going to have that level of presentation,
very similar,
objection handling, showing value, why the buyer wants to work with that buyer's agent. And then the buyer's agent is going to ask the buyer then to pay the buyer's agent commission when they find them a suitable home. Now, that buyer's agent commission will legally be the responsibility of the buyer, not the seller. That doesn't mean, if you combine some of the things Julie just said, that doesn't mean that the buyer's agent commission couldn't then be paid for by the seller. You just have to ask for it in the
seller's concessions.
Seller's concessions, which you can get up to 7%.
Which we've done for decades.
Exactly.
That's actually very normal.
Right.
Okay?
And you guys get it? So what's going to have to happen, really where the pain is going to come in the industry, I think, frankly, isn't from the agents, the boots on the ground. It's from the agents that don't have the skill set to know how to show their value to a buyer's agent, which, let's be honest, is half the agents, if not more, out there. Because for the most part, in you working with buyers, you've said this perfectly in our best-selling book, Harris Rules, working with buyers is physical labor, working with sellers is mental labor. But now working with buyers is going to be physical labor and mental labor.
Yes, absolutely. And this on top of all of the challenges that this market brings us, right? This is sort of the next thing that we all have to deal with. However, I am confident that you and I as coaches in our coaching organization will navigate through this and show them exactly how to deal with it so you can not just survive this change, but thrive in it and rise to the top as the professional that you are.
Well, right there, Julie just said it. I mean, I think it was Baron von Rothschild that said, and when there's blood on the streets, buy real estate. And you've heard a lot of other people say perhaps a little bit cleaner versions of that.
Maybe,
but the gist of it is when other people are panicked, go the opposite direction. So what you're going to see and where the opportunity is going to be, where you, as we say every day on this podcast in our coaching program, you've got to really focus on getting your skills on, because the agent that's going to win in this marketplace is the agent that's going to have the skills. So those of you who've invested a lot of time, money, and effort into building your brand, if you don't have the skills to back it up, in other words, you might attract that buyer to want to call you, but if that buyer is not going to sign your exclusive buyer agency contract where you're going to be more or less guaranteed to get paid for your work, well, to Julie's point, you might be finding yourself working for free. So this is where the rubber is going to meet the road. This is how the industry is going to lean back into less of sort of the egotistical marketing, branding, sort of look at me type stuff, and more towards agents that have the skill set.
Well, that's true. And one thing that I can say with 5,000% certainty is that the listing agent is going to win at an even higher level as a result of all this.
There's no doubt. I mean, that's crazy. If you think about if you have to choose, which all of you do, where are you going to put your effort in every day? And most of us, and the older you get, this number diminishes, trust me, you have 3 to 5 hours a day where you're really frosty, where you can really get things done at a high level. You might work for 8 or 12 or doesn't matter, however many hours, but it's 3 to 5 hours a day. Now, in those 3 to 5 hours, most of you have not been focused on what's going to put you in a position to help the most people make the most money. You've been distracted by all the shiny objects. And the shiny object syndrome is something that all agents are going to be forced to go through, a 12-step recovery program now for. And so I want to help you skip ahead by a year or 2 years. You're in the industry a year or 2 years from now, and you're looking back, wishing you what you would have done. What you wish you would have done is really drill down on the actual professional skill set that maybe no one else other than Julie and I have told you that you need to have to really, frankly, become the most successful agent. It was Charlie Munger who said, don't try to make yourself famous, try to make your work famous. Or more specifically, try to make the results that you get for other people famous. So all this effort, all this focus, all this idea that you will win if you have this bigger brand and people think of real estate, they think of you. There is still a place for that in the conversation. But if you don't get when you get that lead, if you get a lead from all that, essentially buying leads, marketing, branding, and you don't know actually how to present that person and get them to sign a contract, you've just wasted your time.
And your money.
And your money, exactly. And your potential, really.
Yes.
I mean, that's the sad part.
Yeah, so we are here to save you from some of that frustration.
And we're going to talk about this more tomorrow. And then our time remaining, we're going to go over how to make close 5 transactions the next 5 weeks. Julie's focused mostly on centers of influence of past clients for the sake of today's notes, which is great because it's something all of you guys can do. And as always, our notes for today's show, other than what we just talked about, are down below. So scroll below and you'll find our notes for today's show. And then also when you're there, guess what? There's a link for you to join Premier Coaching. How about this being the perfect time for you to actually get your skills on? So join Premier Coaching. The link to join is below. And, this is any sort of change. The greatest, let me just
it's okay.
Bluther for one more second. The greatest fortunes in the history of history have always been made during the greatest times of change. The history, this is just something I want you to think about. The greatest fortunes, think of an industry. I'll give you a great example, real estate. And I'll give you even a better example, Exp Realty. Exp Realty was founded and started in 2009. What else was going on in 2009? Well, real estate.
It was a dumpster fire. Let's just be honest.
I was going to say dumpster fire too. The industry was a bit of a dumpster fire. And then what happened was EXP got its chops and got its momentum during what would have been anybody from the outside would have said, why the hell are you actually starting real estate brokerage now?
What are you thinking?
Virtual real estate brokerage? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right? So that is where EXP got started. And what now has happened is EXP has become one of the largest, fastest growing brokerages in the history of real estate. You go to all these other things that have emerged during times when everyone was in panic mode. Those are the biggest businesses now. You can go all the way back in history and to the Industrial Revolution and all these other big changes that happened globally, even before the United States. And you're going to find that is consistent. The biggest fortunes are always made during the greatest times of change. We're in one of those times now for our industry. And why is that true? Because when everything is the way it was, and it changed today, when everything was the way it was, it's easy for the incumbents to maintain their position of power because they just keep on chugging out what they've been doing. But during times of change, the incumbents don't, generally speaking, have a real solid plan B, and they're the ones that get displaced. And that leaves cracks in the foundation for new plants to grow, for new things to actually emerge, new ideas, and new leaders in the local markets. And that's going to be you guys. So scroll down, click the link to join Premier Coaching. And by the way, there's also some information about joining with Julie and I at Exp Realty. That's down below as well. All right, Julie, I will try not to interrupt you again.
That's okay. And I'll try not to clear my throat too much here today. Okay, so 5 ways to get 5 deals from people you already know in 5 weeks or less. And again, the notes are posted for you. So here's 3 assumptions. Assumption A, that you have your contacts organized in some sort of CRM. The best CRM is the one that you know how to use. If you're with EXP, for example, you can use KV Core. If you don't have a CRM, an organized database, realize that you probably do. It's called the contacts in your phone.
Well, sorry.
It's okay.
I'll add to that.
You're good.
Julie and I text like crazy people, and many of you do too. Because we're texting with you. So you text a lot too because we're texting with you. So I know you text a lot.
We know you do it.
Yeah, exactly. So you can go to your let's say iPhone or your Android phone. You can actually see your entire contact list. And that's your CRM effectively if you don't have one. The reason I'm pointing that out is because this is Julie's first point. But do not just stop there. So if you're saying, can't do anything else because I don't have a CRM.
Yeah, that's why we made that the first point.
Exactly. So go and use your phone and just start, checking A through Z and start texting people and having I actually wouldn't even text them this time of year. I would call them.
Yes.
After today, you can start calling people and tell them happy holidays, right? No one's going to be offended. Be the first one to call them. Be the first one to mail them a holiday card, that kind of thing. So
Okay, so assumption B, you are coachable and will follow this plan exactly for 5 weeks with no excuses, modifications, or exclusions. Remember, it's 5 weeks, not 5 days or 5 hours. It is 5 weeks, not 5 minutes either. So this assumes that you are coachable and paying attention. All right, assumption C, you are not interested in throwing your money away on random leads or impressions, and you'd rather be nurturing people who already know you. These are your friends, your past clients, your professional sphere of influence, and new people you meet and add to your database. That's what this plan is based on. So again, 5 deals in 5 weeks. Point number 1, record one simple, short video. Oh, I don't have video equipment. Use your iPhone, just like the previous point. In the video, you will do 2 things. First, a simple market update. You can find this in your weekly or monthly reports from your board of realtors. It's in your email. You already have that. Next, you're going to offer to send a free comparable market analysis to see what their home is worth in today's market. Text or email you to receive your free analysis ASAP and send this video to everyone in your database.
let me give him a script. So you're doing a video, you're holding the phone out in front of you. I want you to say this. Hey, this is Tim Harris with Exp Realty. So listen, I've been getting a lot of calls and texts and emails and smoke signals from people I know, love, and care about. And they're all asking me the same question. What the heck is going on with my home's value in this market? So I'm going to start calling everyone and let them know give them a value, an update on their home's value. And so I'm going to call everyone once a week, all my friends, all my family, so no one has to worry or panic. And I'm going to be giving a quick snapshot of what's going on in their home's value. And I'm going to start, I'll call you today, or you then decide, listener, how you're going to follow up with that. Maybe you can just do another video that's going to be a quick snapshot, or maybe you actually call them. I would definitely suggest calling them. And so when you call them, when you call them, what you're going to say is, hi, this is Tim Harris with Exp Realty. I've got your quick snapshot of what's going on in your home's value. And I have great news for you. Your home has increased by 8% in the last 12 months. Your home is now worth around this in this price range. And hopefully that's going to help you feel very confident about your decision to be invested in local real estate, or whatever you want to say. Be nicey. It's the holidays, sure. Right? And then ask them, oh, by the way, would you like me to do a more in-depth study of your home's value? I can give you lots of comps and be more than happy to do it. If they say yes, then I want you to assume that they're thinking about selling their house. If they say no, don't worry about it. Here's what you're going to say. Okay, I appreciate that. No problem. Oh, and by the way, Merry Christmas. Oh, before I let you go, whom do you know that I should be helping in this market that's thinking about buying or selling real estate? So in the conversation with asking for a referral, after you've earned the right to ask them a referral because you brought them value of letting them know what's going on in their home's value. And by the way, you've also explained to them that they've increased their net worth by 8% because the house has gone up by 8%. Trust me when I tell you, they're going to love getting your call. Matter of fact, they're going to love getting your call every single month because you're going to do this every single month. Now, if they ask for a CMA, you're going to have to, the next question is going to be, okay, great, I'll get started on it. Can you give me some updates of what's going on, what improvements you've made in the house? And they'll tell you, and then ask them, so of the homes you've seen sell in your neighborhood that you thought were similar to your house, which of those do you think was most similar to yours? Now, here's a tip. If they start giving you comps for their house,
now you have a real listing lead.
I promise you that's a real seller. And then you say, okay, so it sounds like you've done your homework on this. And then you can joke with them. My spidey senses are tingling and telling me you're actually thinking about putting your house for sale. So ideally, how soon would you like this property to be sold? Or if this property were to be for sale, where would you guys go next if you thought about that? And all these scripts and all these techniques are in Premier Coaching. You know what to do.
That's straight out of the seller pre-qualification script.
Well, I played with it a little bit, but yes.
You did. Well, that's because when you learn scripts, you memorize, internalize, and personalize. And because you've said that script 5 million times, you are able to personalize it a little bit. And that's okay once you've learned them. Okay, point number 2, at least 2 times per week for the next 5 weeks, take a past client to coffee or lunch. You're going to use your Ford script, that's family, occupation, recreation, dreams, also included Premier Coaching, to get caught up with them and be sure to ask who they know who could use your help buying or selling real estate. Bonus if you can meet another past client or meet at another past client or friend's coffee shop, ice cream shop, restaurant. Connect your sphere of influence with each other whenever possible.
And again, it's the holidays. Make the most of it.
That's right. They're probably having events. All you have to do is show up and bring somebody from your database.
Well, for the most part, people are in better moods this time of year. A lot
Yeah.
of people take a lot of time off this time of year.
They're fully caffeinated.
They're fully caffeinated. There's lots of parties. So you guys will, even if you're introverted dorks like Julie and I, you're going to have lots of opportunity. And if you have little kids, it's not even opportunity. You're going to be forced to go
Nonstop.
to social events. Make sure when you're there, you become the purveyor of what will mostly be great news, despite all the headlines and the horribleness that's always happening in the world, that you're going to be able to let them know in your market. Because, by the way, guys, in your market, homes have increased in value, and by some cases, close to double digits.
45% on average for the entire country over the past 3 years.
Yeah. Okay. So most of the people you're talking about, or we'll talk to, even though the doom and gloom, again, that's always there. Even though the doom and gloom that's always there is going to be probably, a dark cloud in their minds. When you let them know, and when they ask you about what's going on in the real estate market, because they will, you're going to be able to say, well, this is an amazing fact. I'm surprised not more people are talking about this. But in our marketplace, homes have increased by 45%. When did you guys buy your house? 5 years ago? Well, I don't know if you considered it, but the fact is that you've doubled you've been there long enough that the house has probably doubled in value. Go you.
Okay, now let me interject something that should have been maybe 0.3 here. Okay, and that is that when you have those conversations where you're giving them all that good news of what their home is now worth, don't be surprised if that then puts you into a discussion about property taxes. So when you are doing these calls, these videos, these communications,
or in person at parties,
and especially in person, you should have done the research ahead of time, which will take you maybe a half an hour on your auditor's website. If you sell in more than one county, go to each county's website and know how to fight your property tax. If they want to keep their house, that you're still providing value, you can still ask who they know who could use your help buying or selling real estate. But expect that to come up, because I'm seeing that happen a lot. I'm hearing from coaching clients that is a big discussion. So remember, our first point was to offer a free market analysis. And you did a great job with the script for that. I will remind you guys that sometimes somebody's asking for a CMA because this has kind of dried up lately. They may be thinking about refinancing. Most people,
Yeah.
I think I read 92% of people either refied or already have a low rate.
But tie those two thoughts in together, because that's really important. This is something we also coach all of you guys to do. So if you like, by the way, what you're getting on this podcast, this is just like a sampler plate, of what actually Premier Coaching is. But you could, and you should, depending on your market, go into your marketplace and you could do a letter, a calling thing, doesn't matter. Let them know that you will give them the information on how they can have their property taxes reassessed. Yes. Julie's suggestion is that you would tie that to your leads calls when you're calling these folks and you're conversing with these people. And let's just say they don't want a more in-depth CMA. Well, they're all going to want information on how to lower their property taxes. And in most markets, lowering the property taxes requires that the owner turns in essentially an agent's CMA, not an appraisal in most markets. As far as I know, that hasn't changed.
But they do ask for comps.
And a form. So, Julie, just closer. That's all I'm saying. And a form.
Which you can get on the auditor's website. All of this, everything that we've talked about, 100% of it on today's podcast so far is free, and free.
And what you're doing is you're bringing tremendous value. So even if they don't want to sell their house, now you've showed them the path to actually lower their property taxes. You don't think they're not going to love you, and during all these holiday parties, they're not going to be, when they trip over someone who's thinking about buying or selling, not immediately mention your name? Of course they are.
Because you provided value. Some of you don't make these calls or videos because you don't know what to say. Well, we just gave you something of value to share.
And this should also cut through what all of you use. Well, frankly, most inexperienced agents will say to themselves, I don't want to come off as a pushy salesperson. Did anything I just say sound like would make you a pushy salesperson or somebody that's bringing tremendous value to those folks?
Amen.
If you weren't a licensee and you stumbled across somebody that was offering to do a free CMA, letting you know your home has increased in value by 45%, and also then offering to help you lower your property taxes, wouldn't you kind of love on that person? I would.
Definitely. Okay, point number 3, remember, you're doing all of these things. You're not just choosing one or two of them. Make 5 contacts per day to your past clients and center of influence, 5 days a week for 5 weeks. A contact is a conversation with a decision-making adult about real estate. Remember to ask, who do they know who could use your help buying or selling real estate?
And we did.
So those are real contacts.
And we did give you an overview. You're going to be calling them every single month. You're going to give them an updated, this is great news. In the past 30 days, your home has increased by $12,000. don't spend it all, don't put it all on blue. I mean, a little
have fun
joking,
with it,
a little joking now and then always makes people laugh and makes people more, makes the calls easier for you. Yeah. So that's going to be what you're going to talk about. And you can also sprinkle in other things, just to, keep it social.
Well, some of you are doing your own events because you listen to our podcast about how to run Center of Influence and past client appreciation events. So you can weave that in, inviting them to your events or inviting them to something to go to together. So speaking of events, point number 4, go to at least 3 meetups per week and talk about real estate. Now, these can be organizations, clubs, going to the gym, volunteering, or taking classes on something you're interested in. For example, maybe you go twice per week to Orange Theory or CrossFit, you attend your HOA meeting, and you go to your kid's school event. That could be 1 week, okay? You can mix that up. Sometimes it's repetitive, sometimes it's not, but the point is 3 in-person meetups per week minimum.
Well, you said Orange. So if you're going to do Orange Theory, which all of you should be doing, whatever's local to your market, you want to make sure, we've talked a lot about this, but go on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 o'clock or whatever's convenient for you. And then go on Tuesday and Thursday. Yes, go every day. And then you're going to start bonding to different groups of people. That's a very, very, some of you go to the gym, you put your headphones on, you put your, your hoodies down,
out.
and you go on the treadmill, and then you look like, you're some kind of serial killer. That is not what you do. If you want to get business from semi-social events like Orange Theory, you're going to have to actually go there and be ready to talk about real estate. They will quickly figure you out as being a real estate expert, and then you'll start getting listing leads. Julie and I practiced this. Of course, we can't help ourselves.
Yep.
When we lived in Georgetown, just north of Austin, Texas, and we didn't sell real estate, but I bet you from going to Orange Theory there for 4 years or whatever it was, I bet you we generated easily 20 leads.
Easily.
Yep.
Just by talking about real estate.
Right.
So you can do that too. Bonus, if you can make your meetings, the meetups that you go to, about real estate in some way. So for example, maybe you'd like to be involved in your town's historical society or architectural review committee. Mix it up so you meet more people and of course add them to your CRM. Okay, point number 5, or activity number 5, send at least 5 handwritten cards per day. Send thank you or congratulations cards. This is a good use of social media to get ideas.
Well, you can spy on them basically.
Exactly. Well, so for example, who has just gotten a promotion, gotten married, had their kids graduate, recently moved, found out they have to move, or has a birthday? Use quality stationery and commemorative stamps, which you can get. It costs the same as a regular stamp. Just ask for them at the post office. So your card looks more like an invitation and is sure to be opened.
You could even send them a congratulations card. Some of you, this is kind of a tacky idea, but I mean, it would work. And if you're tacky like me, you're going to love this idea. You can even send congratulations cards after you've done a CMA, knowing that their home's increased in value by 8% since last year, congratulating them for an increase in their net worth, or congratulating them for having bought the house and having the house now be worth, in some markets, what would it be? $40,000 more, 8% of the average.
Congratulations.
Hell
Made
yeah.
a smart decision.
Yeah,
Exactly.
good job. Go you again.
Yeah, well, people love getting those handwritten cards. Always follow up by phone and with urgency when you get responses to any of these 5 strategies. Okay, so let's say you did the video CMA offer and somebody, texts you back. Pick up the phone and call them. Let's say you send a congratulations card and somebody shoots you an email saying, hey, I just got your card. That was awesome. Pick up the phone and call them. In all cases, the answer is to make direct communication. It's even better if you can do it face-to-face. Stick to the plan 5 days per week for 5 weeks and report your results back to us. You can message us on Instagram or email us directly. And of course, if you want even more support and camaraderie as you implement this plan, all you have to do is join Premier Coaching by going to premiercoaching.com, follow the notes that on this podcast, sign up for free today. I love on our Facebook Live coaching sessions seeing the results that our coaching clients get. They love to share that with each other. They're not competing with each other. They're just posting that so, they can all say, that's really awesome. Can I borrow that card idea? Can I borrow that video idea? Sometimes they post pop-bys they're doing or parties or events or different things. You mentioned the holidays. We're ramping up the wrapping paper project. That's
I was just thinking about
project du jour. Coach Rochelle loves to lead those coaching sessions. We have examples of people taking listings from that.
Oh, I know. And Coach Rochelle is the best. She works, obviously, Coach Rochelle is one of our coaches. She is the best at coming up with hilarious little past client idea
Yes,
things.
they're
And she
awesome.
truly enjoys doing it.
She does.
It's a little bit on the crafty side, a lot of her ideas, but
okay.
still they're brilliant.
They are. So we're looking forward to that as well. Remember, you're not going to just pick and choose one or two of these things. This is the 5-week plan to get 5 new deals from at least 5 people that you know.
All right, guys, make sure you tune in tomorrow. We're going to be drilling down on the commission sharing lawsuits. I think for the most part, you will walk away from having listened to tomorrow's podcast with a sense of confidence and direction, unlike, unfortunately, how most of the industry is feeling right now. So make sure you tune in tomorrow. Always, 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 obviously give us 5-star reviews and comments as to why you like this particular podcast or the podcast in general. And it's especially important that you share this podcast with as many other agents as you can. Because frankly, there's going to be a lot of agents right now that are going to be firmly in panic mode. A lot of brokers and teams aren't going to really know where to go with their businesses. Well, we're going to hopefully calm their nerves tomorrow on tomorrow's show. In the meantime, thank you for keeping this #1 listened to daily podcast for real estate professionals in at least the United States. You guys have a fantastic day.
Hello, thank you for having watched this video. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
That's right. And don't forget to hit that like button, leave your comments and questions below, and we will get right back with you.
Thank you for watching this video. And remember to watch the next one. You're going to love that one.